When you first get started with AWS, it's pretty simple because it's you. That's it. Nobody can to contend with. You create your instances, you manage your buckets, you create your DNS entries. I mean, all the stuff that we've talked about in this series up till now, it's all you. But eventually that's going to change. I mean, you're going to introduce maybe other administrators at your organization into this and say, hey, don't go there. That's you don't belong in our DNS management. Oh, whoa, no, sorry, not that area. So you'll want some level of control there. Your users as well may need some access. For instance, you may define an S3 bucket that you want to give some users access. I mean, perfect case right here. CBT Nuggets uses AWS for everything. Do you think they give me permission? No. Get that guy out of there. He's going to blow something up. He'll delete our web server just for fun. I mean, no. Jeremy has no permission to anything AWS except for an S3 bucket. That's my claim to fame at CBT Nuggets. I own a bucket. And when I record a nugget, I put it in my bucket. And they take it, and they make it pretty, and they make it available for everybody to watch. So that is a level of IAM. So we're going to get into this concept and talk about how to use IAM to manage your users and really see some pretty cool stuff that Amazon has provided for us. So let's break it apart. IAM. First off, stands for Identity and Access Management. That's the name really goes with what it is. It is user and group and permission management for everything AWS. It does give you super granular levels of control and automated policy creations. We're going to start seeing a little bit of the policies that we can create. And Amazon has done just a wonderful job of allowing almost like a web GUI to where we say, I want this, I want this, I want this. And behind the scenes, it's generating this nice script for us that we would typically have to write manually on our own. So we'll see some of that. Now, this does allow you to have, let me just consolidate it here, multiple admins that we can create all under one account. So that means I have a company account and I have Jeremy and Bob and Sue and Michael all as administrators under there. They're all creating their instances. They're all doing their things. Then it's one account. It's one billing function. But I do want to mention this is complementary to another feature called consolidated billing. If you ever are curious about that, this is a possibility to where you can have people create their own AWS account, meaning for instance, I could go create an AWS account and associate it. Matter of fact, that's what we've done. I have my own little AWS account here that we've been using for this entire series, creating instances and all that, but it is joined, it is linked to the CBT Nuggets account. Otherwise, I would have to put my own personal credit card in there and get charged anytime I start an instance. So consolidated billing links multiple accounts together into under one essentially billing account. So that's also there. But IAM is not that. That's why I say it's complementary. It's admins for the same account rather than multiple accounts linked together as one. It also supports, and this is what I get really, I'm excited to show you this. I even busted out my video camera. I'm going to do some video to show you the multi-factor authentication via a phone app or a Gemalto key fob, and we'll talk about that. So it's not just username and password and limited to that. We can go another level with that. So is what it is, and I think going through what it is great, but I want to show it to you. That's where we're going to see a lot. So we'll start where we always do, the AWS Management Console, and I'm going to navigate over to the green area, the IAM, Deployment and Management section. So IAM, I've got just kind of a dashboard to start off with. Everything's disabled. I've got, I'm using the following, nothing. I've got nothing there. So Amazon makes it nice and easy to get started by creating a group of new users. So kind of just like we had with VPC, you can create the elements manually, or they have a little wizard to walk you through a lot of it. So we'll say group name. Let me give you a general recommendation. When you are using AWS, you always have one, I guess we could call it master account, right? So when you sign up for your AWS account, you have the master user that you use to sign up. In my case, mine is my email address that I've typed in there, and I have access to everything. It's what I've been using this entire time. Amazon's suggestion is that you take that master account and lock it away. throw it to the side and create a separate user account for your day-to-day administration. The way that you do that is coming back here. We can create a group called admins, and we use the policy template of administrator access. You can see full access to all AWS services and resources. So why that recommendation? Well, think of that master account that you created your initial AWS account with as like the root user in Linux. It has access to everything, which you might go, well, what's the difference? Well, everything including like your profile for your account, what company it's assigned to, your billing information, your credit cards, all of that kind of stuff. So you may have a user at the company that you want to have full access to everything AWS, but you know what? It's like, I don't want them changing the company credit card or doing something with the billing or something like that. So that's what that master account is meant for. Is just kind of take that, lock it away if you ever need to make those kind of accounts, because you can do almost everything with this level of access. Now these are all pre-built templates that Amazon has created, and we'll go through some of those in a moment. Let's just create the administrator group. So comes up and says, hey, I'm going to generate a policy for this user, and this is going to be a name of the policy. It's just auto-generated. And we see the code underneath, which is pretty much, and you'll see as we start seeing these policies, I mean, there are lessons you can go through on learning them, but it's almost like you learn them as you go. You see enough of them, you're like, oh, they're pretty basic as long as you get all the brackets and pieces in the right places. This is allowing everything to everything. You can do all actions to all resources, and that's really what you'll see as we dive deeper into the policies. You'll see, actions are what you can do. Resources is what area of AWS are you allowed to do it in. So I'm going to go continue, and now because we're in this little wizard, it's saying, well, do you want to create some users for the admin? Sure, let's do it. We've got Bob, we've got Sue, we've got Josiah, we've got Solomon. I've got I got to put my family up here. I have 4 kids now, and Josiah and Solomon are my 2 boys. So we'll get them into the mix. So we've got generate an access key for each user. So I'll explain that in a second. That allows them to access the API. And again, we'll look at that in just a moment. So I've got the final review. Notice the access key and secret access key will be available after you finish. Okay, so I click finish, and poof, I have 4 users that have now been created, and I can expand their security credentials so I can see what their access and secret access is set to. Now these keys are used to access various APIs, the REST API. So for example, if I wanted to use a tool like, here's one that I use all the time. I mentioned on the intro that I upload things to CBT Nuggets in my S3 bucket. I use a product called, just so I get the URL right, CyberDuck. A great little thing. It's free. I have to say, this utility was so useful, I donated to it. That was I think. No, I know that was the first time in my life I've ever donated to one of these freeware apps where they're like, give us $5 or something. I'm like, I'm gonna give that man $5. So anyway, with this utility, for example, you can see that it allows you to connect to, for instance, S3 buckets right up there. We see Amazon S3. I'm going here. Here's the URL, and this right up the front is that access ID. So think of that as your username for the API that allows you to access the S3 bucket. And then when you configure the account credentials, you would have to copy and paste that beautifully long secret access key in there as think of that as your password. Think of this as like your username and password for the REST API that allows you to transfer to and from, for instance, S3 is one of the things that would use that. Now we can download this and it will store it in a little CSV file. Oh, I don't have Excel. Here, let's just let's open it up in Notepad. Let's go WordPad. And you can see that it's gonna, if this were Excel, we'd have them all in nice little pretty rows. But this allows us to distribute it, say, okay, I've got this document, instead of trying to madly write those down or copy and paste them into a Notepad file. So I click on close, and I'll talk more about these keys in just a moment, but I'll click on close. So now I have my 4 users. Now, these users are true admin users, but I mean, you might say, well, what's their password? They don't have one yet. They have API access. So, for example, if I wanted to grant them an S3 bucket, they could transfer files and things like that. They've got an access key, is what that is called. But they don't actually have a sign-on. So let's do that. I'm kind of jumping a little out of order, but that's all right. We'll follow. So we're going to go to the security credentials. So right here it says, does Bob have a password? No, he does not. So I'm going to click on Manage Password. We can either create a auto-generated one, or I'm going to go custom. And let's use. I'm going to do PASSW0RD. PASSW0RD. So that way, when you use the auto-generated, I mean they're secure, but they're ugly. I don't want to have to remember it. So I now have a password. So we go, okay. Can Bob now get into AWS? Absolutely, he can. I'm going to go to the dashboard, and right here, you notice we have an account alias. This was automatically generated for us when we signed up for an IAM, or essentially an AWS account. We have this little dashboard that goes straight there. Now, it's a little ugly. We can use that and essentially email that to our users, or create a CNAME in our own DNS. Maybe I have aws.cbtnuggets.com that would point to that as a CNAME record. That's fine. But we can make it a little prettier by creating our own account alias. As long as we think of something unique. For instance, let me just, I'm sure this is taken. I'll hit create. Yep. So, oh, sorry, you can't use test.signin. It's already used. Or, I'm sure just really simple ones. But if you think of, it doesn't take too much to be creative. We'll say CBT account. Yes, create. Beautiful. And you can see right there, poof, we now have CBT account, which makes it a little easier to remember that off the top of our head if we don't have that nearby. So I'm going to copy that. I'm actually going to launch a different web browser. I'll use Internet Explorer since I won't have any credential conflict with my already signed in account. I'm just pasting in my HTTPS CBT Nuggets account, and you can see it automatically has jumped over to this Amazon sign-in. Waiting. There we go. So it is identified. It says, oh, I've identified you as this unique account, and now we can just sign in as Bob with my password of password. Looks good. It's it's admin access. I've got full access. I can get in, EC2, whatever else I need to. I now have Bob as a subsidiary user that's here. Okay. So creating essentially sub-admin accounts or non-master user accounts is pretty straightforward, and you can just walk through the wizard to do that. Now let's break down a little bit more of what we did. We went through, and the wizard created a group which we named as admins. Now you can always create your own groups. You can create your own users manually. You don't have to go through that wizard every single time. I also can have multiple groups with access to multiple things. Before I'm trying to think of a good flow. Before I do that, I don't know why it's so fun for me. Probably just because it's not something you do every day. I want to take the user account to one level beyond. So we've got our access keys, which we can go in, and this is the REST API that was generated. That was that spreadsheet that was created with all of their access keys. Now, those are irrecoverable. If you lose the access key and the secret access key, you're doomed. I mean, I should say you could always get the access key right here, but if you lose the secret access keys, there's no recovery. But what you can do, and I think I mentioned this way early on in the series, but just to remind us, you can create as many access keys as you want. Say, oh, there's another access key for you. Now make sure you save that one, and we go there, and you can let me go back to manage access keys, and you can say, okay, well, we've got 2 of them now that work for this user, and you can keep adding more if you'd like to. I can say, oh, well, that one I think has been compromised. Let's make it inactive. Let's delete it. Whatever the case is. So that's controlling access to that API to interact with many of the Amazon services. But what I really want to show you, because it's fun, is this multi-factor authentication device. Now, we just signed in to AWS using a username of Bob with a password of password. Now, it's pretty horrific if you think that's the keys to your whole company right there. Now, we can make it better. We can add a password policy that our users have to have a certain length, complexity requirements for their password, and that's good. I'm glad Amazon has that for us. But adding multi-factor authentication takes it to a whole nother level, because you are assured that somebody has a device that has been granted access to this. So, two ways to go about this. I'm going to click on Manage MFA Device. We can go a virtual device, which means I have a smartphone app that generates one-time use passwords. So it allows me to use my iPhone, use my Android to generate a key for 30 seconds. And I have to type that in when I log in. Otherwise, just my normal username and password won't work. I also can go one step beyond that and say, I want an RSA key. I think Gemalto is the company that they use for this. They send you a little key fob. Now, you've probably seen them before on people's keychain, which is just a constantly rotating key that you can use. It's essentially the same thing, but maybe a little more secure, because now you have an authorized device instead of having a cell phone that happened to be used for this. But for free, a virtual device is pretty awesome. Now, a hardware device, it's only like $15, maybe plus shipping. I don't know. It's fairly inexpensive to get that little key fob. So both are great, but the convenience of a virtual MFA device and the level of security that adds is pretty amazing. So let me get this set up. I wanted to bring on the video here so that we could I could show this to you completely using a smartphone and everything like that. Yeah, I know. Not what you thought, but this is amazing. So I'm going to go to a virtual MFA device. And it says, okay, to activate the virtual MFA device, you must first install the application. For a list of compatible applications, click here. So if I click here, you'll see that pretty much Google Authenticator is all over it. It's just a little free application. It's very simple, but it integrates nicely with this, and you're going to see just how simple it is. So first thing you want to do is, unless you have a Windows phone, which has to be different, download Google Authenticator to your device, and then take that and scan this code. So I've got this phone right here. He's holding it. I'm going to bring this up, move it to Google Authenticator. It's just an application that I already have open. When I said simple, it's crazy simple, to where it's just a blank white screen. So I take this, and if you can see, I know we're kind of, this is odd. So I'm going to click on plus on my little phone. It says, okay, what is your user, what is your key, all that. That would be pretty horrific to type all that in. So I'm just going to hit scan barcode, which immediately goes to a picture mode. And I come over here to my screen and say, okay, there it is. And look at that. Just like that, it comes up and says, okay, we've got Bob at CBT account, and here is your one-time password. It says 660802, if you can't read that. So what I need to do to activate it, let's see if I can, I've got to do it within 30 seconds. So I'll do 660802. That's my first code, and now I have to sit here and wait for it to invalidate that code. It's going to say, okay, well, it's been long enough. It has a little clock in the upper left that's clicking. Now you can see, oh, it just generated another one, 602339. So what Amazon is wanting is to make sure we've got everything dialed in correctly. I'm going to do 602339, activate, and now we've got well, I don't need to show it to you anymore. Let me get back to my personal view here. Now, okay, there we go. Now I've got it able to activate, or it's activated for this Bob account. So now I've got this multi-factor authentication on my phone. So let's shoot back over to Internet Explorer where Bob was signed in. I'm gonna unsign in. How about log out? Brilliant. As Bob, and I'm going to go back to the AWS Management Console. So I'm still under that CBT account. I'll type in Bob with his password of password, PASSW0RD. And look at that. It's now asking for my one-time password, which just expired on here, so it's generating another one. Okay, so this is now valid for 30 seconds. I'm going to type in 662729. Enter. Come on! Yeah, if you didn't pause the video and go run around the block because you're so amazed at how simple that was to set up, wait a second. Come on, it's crazy how amazing that is. I mean, and the reason I'm saying it's crazy is because of just how much hassle you have to go through if you want one-time password authentication within your organization. I mean, you're talking setting up servers, setting up contracts with Gemalto and all that, and Amazon has done that all for you. So that is amazing. Okay, can't you see why I was so excited to get to that? That's worth the price of admission right there. So let's go back here. Let's now kind of go a little more structured through this. We kind of went through the wizard and created one group with 4 users inside of it. So and by the way, you can see we have the root account. If we want to set multi-factor authentication for the root account, the master account that we used initially, we can do that as well as, same thing, assign a password policy to ourselves, but why would I do that to myself? So I'm going to go to the groups. Isn't that funny? Just as a random side note, how IT people are all about security, but when it comes to password changes and policies, we're like, well, my password's really good, so I'm going to exempt myself from that password change every 30 days. So I'm going to go to the group. And let's say we want to start getting a little more, I guess, specific. I want some admins to have permissions to some areas, not to others, and all that. And this is where let your mind go with what scenarios you want. So I'm going to create a new group. And we'll say this group name is EC2 access. Actually, can't have that space in there. Click on continue. And right here, we can either use one of the preformed templates where I can say, okay, well, let's see if we can find EC2. There's S3. I miss it. Probably missed it somewhere in there. Elastic cache. There we go. EC2 full access or read-only access. So that's, you can either have full or read-only. Now, one of the things I do want to mention is this does not have the ability to restrict to specific machines in EC2. That's the job of the individual credentials. So you either have access to EC2 or you don't. At least as it stands right now. Who knows if Amazon's always changing. So we can use these blanket templates that have been created by Amazon, or we can even generate our own policy. I can say I want to use the policy generator, which is a nice feature that we don't have to know all of the custom scripting and things like that to create our own policy. So let me show you that. Click on this. It says, okay, well, what service are you wanting to grant access to? I'll say EC2. And then it says, okay, well, what actions do you want? If you want full access, there you go. That's everything. Do you want the ability that they can have to allocate an address or to associate an address? I mean, look at this. Ooh, Nelly. Create a VPC, delete a route, delete a VPC. I mean, wow. This is a ton of stuff, all related just to EC2. So you can see, maybe I just want a start and stop guy. This guy logs in. If an instance is frozen, he stops it and he starts it. And that's all he does. So that's why I'm saying let your mind go, because when you see all of these different policies that are available to you, you really realize we can get detailed with this. We can do a lot of stuff to restrict it down. So I'll click on add statement. And I can go in there and keep adding more and more and allow and things that people have access to. But for now, we'll just click on continue. Let me move that up. Click on continue, and it does show you here's the policy that I'm actually generating. So this is what I'm saying. Behind the scenes, as you get used to this, you'll really start saying, okay, well, it makes sense. So they've gone in and created SID, and this is just a nice random identifier. You can make that if you're creating your own. You can just type in whatever you want there, just a random identifier, and then you can go underneath here and say, okay, they said for EC2 : they get this, they get that, they get this, and this is all documented. If you want to pull up a document of what are all the well-known associations that we can put in here, I can do that. I'm saying, okay, well, effect allow, and the resource is everything. We don't have the ability to restrict it to just one instance inside of E2, so we're saying everything inside of E2 is what's being allowed. So I click continue and create. So you can do that for essentially every resource in AWS. Whatever I want to allow access to, then I can go through and allow my users access to those roles. Now it's kind of silly because I have these guys that are full admin, but I do want to show you that I can give them, or I should say add them to multiple groups. So if maybe I'm not an admin and I want to add EC2 access along with Route 53 access along with VPC access, I can have one user in all of those groups. that I can put in there. And we went through the Sally. We went through the wizard, but I mean this is same exact thing. We can add in Sally right here and say, okay, well this is a fresh user. We've got all of her permissions. Is this making sense? Where you can see that? I mean it's pretty straightforward on how to manage these users. So I can add her to a group. She is just an EC2 admin, and grant access that way. Now we did set this Sally user in a group, and she now has group permissions. You can see here's the policy that is associated with her. That's the one that we generated for the EC2 access, and we can show it, and there it is. That's the permissions that she has. It's worth mentioning that if you want to get this specific, I can generate a user policy. I can say, you know, this one user. I don't have to use groups. I can go user by user by user and say, you get this policy or you get this policy template that you have access to, and that's really what these three are. Is, you know, pick one of Amazon's template, use the generator to kind of check the boxes and generate a policy. Or if you're, you know, if you're pretty beefy on these policies, you can go through and just, you know, create one yourself and apply it to that user. So we can go on a user by user basis. Last thing I want to mention, I think I've hit the core of everything IAM. But last thing I want to mention is the roles. What is the roles? Roles are something you may or may not create. What this is to provide API access to applications running on a server. So for example, maybe I've got, let me go back here, I've got an instance here that's running, it's a web server, and it's using an API to access something on another server. So we have an application that is running that needs to access something in an S3 bucket, or, you know, you see to where it's like we start getting this cross-platform. We need to be able to grant applications access to resources. That's what the roles are. The roles are, you pretty much go in and name the role. You know, say we'll say server access. And then same kind of thing. We say, okay, well this has access to EC2 resources, or this one can get into that S3 bucket, and we go through and set the policy. Let's just make them, you know, make the application a full administrator. And now we have the ability to say, okay, we've got now this server access which can be assigned to an EC2 instance. So let's take a look at that. I'll shoot over here to EC2. So we've got this server access role, which tells exactly what resources something has access to. We'll go to EC2. We'll hit launch instance as we're creating an instance, and this is one of those ones we just kind of flew by before. When you get to the advanced options, right there, IAM role, and I can say this guy has server access, so the applications running on this instance will be granted whatever permissions are there, like access to an S3 bucket. That's big. That's actually a, I'll say, fairly new feature that Amazon has added to this. Before they had this, I mean, people were putting keys, you know, in little configuration files on the desktop. You know, they were, kind of running scripts that would put keys into an application when it launched. I mean, this is a big deal for application developers to kind of enhance security in a big way, to eliminate all of the key assignment from the application itself. The application just automatically has access because you've granted it the correct role when you created the instance. So my hat goes off to Amazon on creating a brilliantly simple and yet amazingly secure method of controlling access to the cloud using IAM. So we've seen what IAM is. It's a whole component of AWS allowing to manage users and permissions and groups and even multi-factor authentication. And we just kind of lived in that live interface working through that as we went. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.